Hello class, this is Mrs. Al-Amoudi, and in today's lesson you're going to learn how to take notes in social studies. Okay, so we are currently in your Holt textbook in chapter 7 on the judicial branch, and we are in section 1, which is called Equal Justice Under the Law. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how you're going to take notes. So the first thing that I did was I wrote down the chapter and the chapter title. So chapter 7, the judicial branch. The section 1 starts on page 169A. So I wrote that section and the page number at the top. This is a good way or a good technique to use because what's going to happen is when you want to go back to your notes when you're doing an assignment or studying, you know exactly where you need to go. Equal justice under the law is the title of this section, so I just put that in there also. So the first thing that we're going to look at is the laws for all, the first section. Now, this first page of your reading gives you the read to discover questions. It also gives you definitions or vocabulary words, and it tells about the reading focus. So I've already went through and read this section, so we're going to skip over to the next page. So we're going to go to page 169B. Okay, and the technique that I'm going to teach you today in making or taking notes while you're reading is whenever you start, the first thing that you should do is go through and look for all of the highlighted bolded print titles for your readings, because these are going to tell you that these are the important things in the reading that for that day. Okay, so for example, on this page, laws for the good of all is something very important. On the next part, the kinds of law. The next part, rules of the courts. So what you're going to do is you're going to take these titles, and I'm going to go back to the first one, and you need to make them into a question. Remember, we have who, what, when, where, and why. So you can use those, and how, excuse me. So you can use those question words to help you form your questions for when you're reading. So my suggestion is that you do this before you start reading. You look at your titles of your bolded sections within the reading, you make them into questions, and you write them down. That way when you're reading, you read the section, and then you're going to come up with the answer for that question. So let's look at this page here. So what I did was I wrote down the page number, so page 169B, 170A, and I took this title, Laws for the Good of All, and I put it into a question. What are the laws for the good of all? So laws are made to protect our rights, but sometimes it limits the freedom of others, and it is important to know what the laws are and for citizens to obey them. So these are the two important things that I took from this reading section that answers the question, okay? So let's go to the next page. Okay, so the next page, the heading for this group is the kinds of law. Okay, so this is very easy. So you can make this question into what are the kinds of law? So I did this already, and remember, I put the page number 170 to 178 so that I know when I want to go back, I can easily find more information. So my question is, what kinds of law are there? Now, looking at the reading, guess what? It already has the types of laws bolded for me. So I already know the answer before I even get started. So what you're going to do is in this type of situation, you also see these bolded blue words. These are vocabulary words, and sometimes they're already covered in the reading, and you might not have to worry about them or worry about putting a definition down. Vocabulary words you will deal with after you answer the questions. So, so looking at the first question, or the first type of law, statutory law, so I write it down and then write a description in my own words. So statutory law is a type of law that is passed by Congress, state, or local government. Once I have that written down, I go to the next one. Okay, as you can see, I go through all of them. Once I have the descriptions for each type of law, then I go to the vocabulary words. And what I did is I just typed very easily vocabulary, and then I start looking at the words. So the first one, statutory laws. I already described that in the answer to the question for this section. Okay, the next one is precedent. So precedent is a new word. It's not covered in the answer of the question. So I'm going to click on that, and this is the definition that comes up: an earlier court decision that guides judges' decisions in later cases. So you need to put that in your own words. And I keep on saying that over and over again. And that is so very important, because if you can put something into your own words, then that helps with your understanding of the idea, the concept, the term, the main idea. It helps with your comprehension of whatever you're reading. Okay, so I put the vocabulary word down here: precedent. A judge uses a previous court decision on a current case. Okay, that's how I would describe what a precedent is. Okay, so this is the technique that you need to use when taking notes on this section. Okay, so I already did the first 2 pages with you here in the video, so it's your job for today's lesson to continue with the rest of the reading in this section. So you are going to continue on the rules of the courts, the right to a fair trial, and anything that's in bold is an indication for you that that is probably something important. Okay, so we're continuing. And that is the end of section 1. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to continue with taking notes, and it is very important that once you're done with your notes that you submit them to the Dropbox. If you have any questions or do not understand even though that you watched the video, please contact me as soon as possible and I would be glad to help you with this activity.